Hello, this is vh1 of the channel at YouTube. Okay, I've kept my mouth shut on this for some time. Yes, the subject is pretty much that metal show being cancelled. And I don't care if I get any backlash for saying that maybe it's a good thing that it's getting cancelled because, yes, it's one of the few public TV shows to actually talk about metal, but the thing is, it's not really one of the best shows. It's like, yes, it's one of the only shows to ever talk about, but it's not really one of the best shows that actually represent the genre that is heavy metal, or even in general hard rock. It's not really the best show to represent it. To me, I thought Metal Evolution was a much better representation, but even I have some little, some sort of, not negative, but kind of sort of little nitpicks with Sam Dunn on some of his picks, but overall I thought Metal Evolution was a lot better. But if you really want to watch more of Sam Dunn, always come watch Banger TV on YouTube. But, the thing with that metal show is, the reason I don't think it's a very good representation of metal, hell, they mostly talk about more hard rock bands than they really did metal bands. They all like to talk more about UFO and Van Halen. Well, I can probably make the argument that UFO is probably a little more metal compared to, even such acts such as Kiss and even, oh, fuck. And, of course, Van Halen. Even though Van Halen also pretty influential to metal, but they mostly talked about a lot more hard rock bands than they did metal. And every time I tuned in, it seemed like there was more hard rock than really metal. The only times I ever talk about metal is within the top, either like Motorhead, Judas Priest, Dio, Black Sabbath, who else would? Even Saxon would get brought up. Hell, I'll even make the argument that even Dokken were probably a more metal compared to some of the other bands that they talked about. But most of the time it was always hard rock, and plus they even kept talking about fucking Poison. And again, I don't even consider Poison a metal band. There's nothing metal about them. And to me, I'll also throw it out there that I don't think they really were the best out of all the glam bands. They really were like, they were second tier, or fucking third tier, or even fourth tier. They really weren't a top tier band. It's surprising how Poison ever got fucking big. But as far as some of the other bands that they talked about, most of it was just hard rock and never was metal. And yet, for it being called that metal show, it was rare. There was little metal being talked about. The only times they even would bring up any other metal bands is either such as Anvil or other ones. Even even Raven will get name dropped, or fucking Razor at one time was name dropped. And no shit, and it came from Eddie Trunk, who's probably the biggest douchebag to ever get fucking TV time. But even at one point, even Pile Driver was even name dropped, even from Eddie Trunk. I'm like talking about the certain episode. It was with Anvil on there, and also had Sebastian Bach. They were talking about favorite Canadian bands, and of course, Jim Florentine said his favorite metal band was Helix. Now, I'll make an argument that maybe Helix at times could be metal, but at times they really aren't. They've got some metal to them, but at times it's a more hard rock sound. I know, I sound like a metal elitist, but that's just how I feel. Sure, I'll say they're more metal than fucking Kiss. Yes, I went there. Give me all the shit that you want. I don't care. But on the same episode, Sebastian Bach said Neil Young, which maybe it's just Sebastian Bach fucking with Eddie Trunk and some of the other guys. I don't know, but which is weird. The only thing I thought was interesting was seeing Reiner, the Rob or some the drummer of Anvil. He brought up a Canadian band called Thundermug, and they all were like, they were new because nobody ever heard of the band. This is how I heard of them. They're like a Canadian hard rock band, but which probably I don't know. I never cared to check them out, even though I looked up the discography. Though I might have to change that. I may have to probably see what he's talking about, see why he picked them. But I know that Lips picked April Wine, which this was only for Canadian heavy bands, but which now it was pretty something to see April Wine. Of all some of the hard rock bands that ever get mentioned, April Wine really does get probably the little mention because they really are a good band. But as far as other Canadian bands on the subject of Sebastian Bach talking about, just his pick being Neil Young, Eddie Trunk was like saying, name dropping other band. What about this? What about fucking Razor? What about Pile Driver? Which I heard Pile Driver, I shat my pants because of, like, how the fuck does Pile Driver get name dropped on public TV? And where is it? I got that. I know that Razor doesn't get a whole lot of talk within public TV, and which Razor really does deserve to get some more talk anyway. If you're gonna call it that metal show, you need to also talk. And even though Jameson did say that it's a classic channel, that he was making the argument that people were saying that they don't name drop a whole lot of newer bands, but if you want to talk about classic bands, there are plenty of other classic metal bands that out there besides fucking Judas Priest, Motorhead, Van Halen, and such others. But here's right here. Why doesn't Razor get a whole lot of talk? They're a fucking great band, and especially this one. And as far as fucking, I know Celtic Frost at one point was name dropped, but Eddie Trunk does not name drop some of the other bands like Celtic Frost, whatever, which. Then there's a whole another fucking rant right there. The whole death metal argument within that metal show, saying that they don't play it because it's too violent, too whatever. It's fucking death metal. What to expect? But even I'll make also an argument that Gwar is not a death metal band. Why the fuck did Jim Florentine bring up Gwar within that subject? I don't know. I think he's a bit of a dumbass. Yes, I just said that, and I don't care. I ain't gonna look for it. I know I got the Pile Driver record in there, which is Stay Ugly, but still. There's a whole nother, it's like, yes, Jameson did make an excuse to reason not talk about young bands, but he also made an excuse not to talk about other bands out there that that were around during the 80s. It would be nice to also see other bands such as even Tank, though I don't know if I really want them to talk about Tank. Then again, that's only the Evans Tucker Tank that I'm not a big fan of. And you already knew that. But anyways, that metal show getting canceled. Maybe I have maybe I know why. It's because they don't add a whole lot of interesting things to the show. They didn't add a whole lot. It wasn't that interesting anymore. I stopped watching it. I'll come back and forth to it. And I just seem to be scratching my head like, the last time I ever watched something that was Metal Evolution was, it was an episode with Yngwie Malmsteen. He was the guitar player for even though they had him on there to talk, but in past episodes, but he was just on there just to fucking shred. But when it was on, they were talking, making a list of the 5 best albums or desert island albums, which is a topic that, or a discussion that people like to talk about. Everyone likes to talk about what will be the albums that you'll bring if you were, or the 5 albums that you would bring if you were deserted on some desert island. On an island. You know, what would be the albums that you would bring? And that was it. And the picks they had were mostly hard rock bands. Fuck, they put a double album in there. Or 2 actually. Both was UFO Stranger Than Night. Yes, that was probably Eddie Trunk's pick. Even though I like UFO, but he can't seem to bring to. He doesn't want to seem to throw them away. He doesn't want to get rid of them. He can't just seem to take his mind off of UFO and talk about other bands that might go on there. But since it's his favorite band, whatever. And I like UFO, but I'm not too big of a fan. But one of them was also Led Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti. My dad was making the argument that Led Zeppelin really aren't a hard rock band, nor a metal band. And I definitely can understand, because Led Zeppelin mostly would change their sound a bit. They are a rock band, but they are not really a heavy rock band. And Physical Graffiti isn't all that much of a rock album as well. There's many different styles portrayed on that album. It's various different styles, and it isn't just rock. Even though Physical Graffiti is always considered one of the greatest Led Zeppelin albums, but it just seemed like they threw it on there just to give the fucking old winkers a bit of a hand job. Yes, I kind of went there. It's just to have them to jizz all over, because it's like, oh my god, they threw Physical Graffiti. Yes, woo. But still, I've probably gone on a bit too long about this, but fucking that metal show getting canceled, whatever. It's not like we're losing anything that spectacular. Metal is always going to get talked about anyway. Just watch YouTube. There's already going to be a whole lot of talks on there. If you really want to find good metal bands, or want actual good discussions about real metal bands, just go on YouTube. Watch guys such as Metal Theologian. Go watch fucking CKN. Go watch even Scott Waters' channel. Go watch Holzbom, the VC community. Go watch even but when it comes to reviewers, there's plenty of metal reviewers on here. Hell, I'd recommend checking out more of my channel, since I talk about more fucking real metal bands than what that metal show talked about. To me, that's where it should be. And plus it was on VH1 Classics. VH1 Classics does not really... They are probably one of the worst companies to actually represent heavy metal. Fuck, they've got the freaking Metal Mania, and they mostly play hard rock bands on there, not really metal bands. The only time they'll still play something metal is if it's even Judas Priest, Motorhead, or any. They don't even go out and play fucking other bands such as Riot, or even there that actually did have music videos as well. They only play ones that were mostly played on MTV. Because VH1 Classics wants to be the new version, and always saw them as a new version of MTV. They're not, and plus MTV during this time wasn't that good of a representation of metal. You're never going to get a good representation of metal within the public television. See, you're never going to get it. You have to go to YouTube in order to find some good discussions of metal. You have to. That's the internet is the only place to get real good discussions of heavy metal. A good spectrum of it. The only time VH1 had ever had a show on there that was a good representation, or was close to being a good representation of metal, was Sam Dunn's Metal Evolution. The only time you ever got something, when it came to New Wave or British Heavy Metal episode, is probably the only times you really ever got to see a good sort of a biography about the New Wave of British Heavy Metal. The only time you ever got something good close to it, besides guys such as Martin Popoff or who else, was the closest. And even when it came to thrash metal, was probably the fucking even that was pretty good. I know I'm going off topic, but this is going to be a long video. But on the thrash metal video, when Sam Dunn was in the car with Metal Blade owner Brian Slagel, he was talking about the early days of the metal scene within LA. You had the heavier bands and you had the glam bands, the ones that were kind of, like Motley Crue and such. But then you had the heavier bands, and he name dropped some great names. He name dropped Omen, for fuck's sake. He also, I think, even named off Bitch, as well as, I think even Fate's Warning might have got. I know Fate's Warning was definitely put in the prog metal list, even though Sam Dunn did not talk about Fate's Warning, but they were in that list of prog metal bands. But as far as other, it's like Brian Slagel just named off some great names that just seems to get overlooked by the guys within metal that metal show. It's like here's Jim Florentine and here's fucking Jameson. They've got. I will give them credit for actually knowing some some good metal bands, but they never really cared to talk about them on there. They really were limited to VH1's demands. It's like only VH1 wanted them to cater to the ones that the bands that the people really want to hear, instead of trying to take risk on giving them bands that they probably would like to hear. They never really did that. Eddie Trunk was one who's probably was the one that was like who probably loved the demands of VH1. He probably fucked one of the interns, I don't know, because of he like, oh, you think what I think. That's pretty much just to end this, but without anything very fucking anything me saying anything stupid. I want to end this with just saying that metal show really wasn't a good representation of metal. Sure, they talked about it, but it was not a good representation of it. Again, I already name dropped good representations of metal. If you again, the VC and any other person on YouTube is going to be a lot better representation from metal than that metal show. Anyways, this is since this was me talking about it, I want to know what you guys think though of that metal show being canceled. If you are a fan of it and were actually insulted by what I say, post your disagreements with me. I post that and because since I would like to know why you think that metal show should stay on. However, if you aren't a fan of that metal show and actually are happy that it's getting taken off, post your reasons why you think it wasn't that good of a representation. I know I said my reasons for why it wasn't that good of a representation for metal, but still, I would like to know. Anyways, this is Every Thrasher saying I am out, and I will be back with probably some more reviews. So stay tuned for this channel within the next fucking week.